This is the project when I was a kid that I would have said, oh, why couldn't I be a part of that, you know? And I've always wanted to make that project. It's a fanboy dream come true for me.
It's really like right out of the pages of a book. I mean, this is Wolverine and Hulk and the fighting and violence. As somebody who reads the comics and always has, I'm excited for this.
This one was so important because it was another first. It was 2 films running at the same time, double the work, double the effort.
I don't suppose you got any interest in talking this out.
Chris is really, really talented, and we've worked together now on a lot of different stuff. And this was a real treat because we've worked on a lot of X projects together, but this is the one where we really got to take the gloves off. You know, we weren't doing it for television, we weren't doing it for comics. And we said, dude, it was really gonna be this. If it was gonna be the perfect, you know, fight. If you look back at all the classic times that Hulk and Wolverine did battle, you know, what would it be?
With Hulk versus Wolverine, you know, there's so much like source material there. There's 2 amazing characters that have met many times.
What we've found is very tricky is taking an existing series or a run or a story and translating it directly to the animation. It's never this easy, let's just grab the panels and the dialogue and stretch it out and it'll fit the needs of the movie. So it's very tough to take what people love so much and bring it to life as they want to see it in these movies. So we do our research and try to find the moments that people always speak about. So if we can't do that direct translation of that issue or those 6 issues, we try to bring those moments into the projects we're working on. Who doesn't think of the McFarlane Hulk cover with, Hulk and the Blades? Recent history with Quesada's cover with the wolf coming next to Logan as he drinks from the creek. That's an image that really speaks to the character, this feral wolf man, you know, who is very much like the wild animals in that forest, and there's a kinship there. So again, that's a moment that worked so well for our story that we wanted to see in there.
With the Barry Windsor Smith story, I mean, it's the classic, everybody knows it, so we looked at it for inspiration, like, well, why don't we just do that?
If you're ever going to go back and tell Wolverine's origin, you cannot do it without touching on those moments. The characters are involved. And again, a credit to Frank. He really did a beautiful job kind of bringing that palette and that world to life in the way that it needed to be. So many of the great shots with the bear and the science and the training and the tank and the adamantium bonding process. I mean, just twisted, wicked, evil stuff, you know? It's so exciting to see it brought to life.
The whole process of the adamantium and everything had to be very, very painful, gut-wrenching, to make you feel for, you know, what these people did to this character. And we had an opportunity and we took it, because this is the kind of stuff that, you know, for Saturday morning, for general animation, you know, it's a very hard thing to watch characters suffer. But this is essential in understanding who Wolverine is. You know, is his past and how far he has come from them.
When you have Hulk versus Wolverine, I mean, you've got a 40-minute movie that's one long fight, you know, essentially. So what do you do to make it a little more meatier? Well, in this case, we actually brought in some old Wolverine foes. We brought in Weapon X. And I mean, for us, it was just like incredibly great fun, because these are, you know, some of the most evil beings that have ever walked the planet.
Oh, good buddy. It's me, Deadpool. I shot you.
Deadpool was brought into this because he had never been done. People have been desperate to see him. And this was the place where he could actually be himself 100%. He could say the things he needs to say, and he could do the things he needs to do to really be Deadpool. Very tough to stick him in Saturday morning and make him feel accurate.
Let's dance.
You know, Deadpool is insane. Like, he's, you know, they call him the Merc with the mouth, and he's hysterically funny. And, you know, he'll kill you and make a joke, and it's good times. Everybody loves that. Kids, especially.
Hey, still have that unbreakable skull?
Once we were done, Frank and his guys and the guys overseas and the actors just took it to a whole nother level.
One of the things that I loved as a producer and as a designer of these shows is we were able to get in and we were able to experiment. I've always felt very strongly that superhero characters have different types of personality, and those personalities demand different types of designs to help effectively play them off. With Wolverine, here's this, the nitty-grittiness is that It's a very dark, dramatic story. It's about monsters fighting monsters. We wanted to give it a very hard-nosed, gritty feel to everything that happened. Fortunately, my director, Sam Liu, is a very good friend of Jeff Matsuda. Jeff was very gracious to give us these, just from the first drawings that he did, just nailed it. Just nailed what we were looking for.
Hulk vs. Wolverine is one of my favorite comics, and so I would kill at any opportunity to draw Wolverine in animated form. Especially, and as it was being sold to me, it was like, it was from their more mature line. So I just wanted to do something that you haven't really seen before between Hulk and Wolverine. I tried to distill everyone into a good silhouette and then put it up into a lineup. So the ensemble cast would read well together. I didn't want everyone to be 5'3" because that's ridiculous, and I didn't want everyone to be enormous because then you don't have any scale. So it was basically that. That was the whole process. I worked with John Suzuki, who did all of the turns for all these. He's a great artist. So I would get a bunch of drawings together of Hulk, Wolverine, Deadpool, Omega Red, all those guys. Do my takes on him. I think Frank liked him, so he went with a lot of them.
We then were able to take all that material that he did and then give it to our partners overseas, Madhouse, and their own artists took that and then interpreted it into their own animation style, and we got the look. The thing about Wolverine that we wanted, I mean, and both shows are both very emotional character pieces. And with Wolverine, this is pre-X-Men Wolverine, so he's not that far removed from the monsters that he fights, except he knows the difference between right and wrong. But he's still kind of torn with a lot of different emotions within him. Jeff always has a way of getting a certain inner feel. If we could pull that off, maybe in a series it'd be a lot more difficult, but with the DVD, we're able to experiment just a bit more to get that extra quality we need to pull off the emotional aspects of these stories. And I've always appreciated the way that Jeff works his characters, the way they move, the way he poses them, the looks on their faces. He's able to get those little tweaks and twists that add so much to a character.
The way I normally attack drawings is I try to just put in my normal drawing techniques, but I will always stay faithful to what the character is about. On whatever show I do, whatever movie, I'll always take the essence of what the character is, and I'll just put it through my filter. I know Wolverine's short, I know he's a mean Canadian claws. These things will never change. I don't go too crazy. I'll never make him a tall, skinny guy. So pretty much he is how I think people envision him, just put through my filter and made animation friendly for just animation purposes. Drawing Deadpool, I sort of treat him like I would treat Spider-Man with guns, is sort of how I see him. He wisecracks, he jumps around, and he has guns. So that's how I treated him in the DTV. I think it turns out pretty funny too.
No! Yes? As in yes, you're going to die. Bang! Just kidding.
The way I approached the Hulk was basically that I did a lot of research. I mean, I've been a Hulk fan for a long time, but I still like to look at what the greats did and everyone that came, before. So I looked at Kirby's Hulk just because I love the power that Kirby's Hulk has. I love what Bruce Timm does with the Hulk as well. And I just looked at all those things. I looked at the Hulk 181. I just looked at all those and I just put together one that I thought fit well into the universe that I put together for the film.
This is the classic Hulk that we know and love. The Hulk's catchphrase is Hulk smash, and he does a fair amount of damage. The character of Bruce Banner is one of my favorites, actually. He is a tortured soul. He's got this incredible burden and curse, and he's constantly being chased and harangued and, being used, and people want to use him as a weapon. But, I mean, he's, in my mind, kind of the hero. I mean, Wolverine is kind of like a nitty-gritty character that's actually sent to kill the Hulk, He doesn't know anything about Bruce Banner. This is the first time they've ever met.
Please, I'm begging you, leave me alone. For your own sake, please, go. You're in terrible danger.
Here's the deal, Misty. There's a third claw that's gonna come out if you don't start talking.
He doesn't care about Bruce Banner, he cares about Wolverine, because he knows that if the Hulk is unleashed, he's gonna kill Wolverine.
We have wonderful talent on this, from the sound designers to the composers to the producers to the writers to the people who run the studio, and everyone's so talented and so passionate. A lot of Wolverine was left to Japan to do, and you hold your breath. You have all the faith in the world in these guys because you know what they can do. But when the stuff came back, it was such a day of celebration. It was just it's a moment you'll never forget, So it is the way it's supposed to be, but it rarely ever is.
There are sequences in there that are just like stunning. The villains of the piece, the Weapon X villains, just to see them like come alive and fight the Hulk, and it's just like it's amazing. There's a sequence that takes place completely in shadow that's just amazing. There's a sequence with Hulk and Lady Deathstrike that you just look at and you're like, oh my, and you're just like, this is what it should be.
There's a lot of dream projects you have in life when you see things come together and you're just super happy. This is one of them. Just seeing Madhouse work on characters I've put together, see them animate them and do their magic that they do. There's a lot of scenes where limbs are flying, blood's spewing everywhere, and it's not something I expected, but it was a great surprise. But the animation quality it's remarkably high.
The actors in these films, and I've worked with wonderful talent across the board, and obviously I can't get everybody into these two movies, but you're working with the people that I love the most. Steve Bloom and Fred Tatasciore and Nolan North, they're all so amazing. These are the best of the best. When these roles came up, they were absolutely who we needed to have in these films to make them what they should be. And and again, Bryce, who we brought in to play Banner. We just have so many wonderfully talented people on these projects. We're very blessed in that regard.
What the hell happened?
One of the things I love about Wolverine most is that he is such a tortured kind of soul. And there's a lot of honesty in that may not show through in some of the other superheroes. So for me, it's almost kind of a therapeutic thing for me to find those deep, dark levels and to bring it out with this character with such force that, I walk out of the sessions, even though I'm, bloodied and battered, I feel really peaceful with the world.
He's all yours, Einstein.
No, Logan, we're friends. No!
This is by far the craziest incarnation of Wolverine I've ever worked on. It's just sick.
Maybe that'll help speed things up.
Get my butt kicked a lot, and I get to tear into a few people too, so it's very therapeutic.
Sounds like fun.
I spent a lot of my formative years digging through comics. It was my world for several summers in a row, and just to be absorbed in that world and then to relive it in adulthood and just watch it come to life around me in these sessions is like a kid's dream come true. I love Fred Tatasciore. We worked opposite each other. I think he ate me in one series. And so just working opposite him, just that energy working opposite him for me is really great. But beyond that, Hulk is one of my other favorite characters of all time. I just love the simplicity and the anger and how they can just go at each other like that. And it's almost, to me, like brothers having it out, over and over again. And again, it kind of brings real world to me and within the context of a cartoon. There's something about hearing the Hulk's primal scream that just makes me smile. I don't know what that is. Maybe that's a perversion, but it makes me happy.
Let's do this.
With Hulk versus Wolverine, it's basically, here's a possible friend, who would be an ally.
Hey, I'm on your side, you flaming idiot.
But Hulk has this thing where he'll protect innocent people and he will, do the right things, but he also does a whole lot of the wrong things, especially if you're in the way or you decided it was good to fight him. And he will never forget a face, especially if somebody, had scratched him like Wolverine, or, it's like, I remember, and it's like, it's your butt at that point. Hulk smash, claw people! a physical job for two reasons. One is, you know, the voice and breath support you need to have for this character. It is like playing stunts. It's like being your own stuntman. It's vocals. It's the closest thing I can have as a voice actor to doing my own stunts. And then on top of it, it is a physical job, which is you are acting out while you're doing it. You really do want to do that, because if it's just a voice disconnected from what's going on, it may not connect to the picture. So you are kind of basically having a fight every day.
It's a fun job, actually.
What do you say after the mission we kill all those floating babies? Goodbye, bang.
What can I say about Deadpool? You know, sadistic, evil, but charming as hell, because he's the guy that just, you gotta respect people who love what they do, and he loves to kill. So he's having a great time, and he's certainly enjoying every moment from beginning to end.
Strike a pose.
His comments even take the other villains back. You know, when you can make one of your cronies, your evil cronies, cringe, you know you're on a new level of disturbed. You know what I mean? And I think that's exactly where Deadpool is. And man, that's fun to play.
Logan, buddy. It's me, Deadpool. I shot you.
Nolan, as an example for Deadpool, he was the perfect choice because of how talented he is. He's a guy who can come in and destroy a room, okay? You got a nice mood set, everyone's in the right place, and he can't help himself. He cannot stop his mouth, he'll crack a joke, but what makes him murder is that he can do that joke, and then he can go right back into the most dramatic, touching, moving scene, and then say the most filthy thing right after that. And it's astounding. It's quite a gift, you know?
Ah, Wolverine. Why so glum, chum? You can choke me too.
You want to think you're the guy who got into that place, and oh yeah, that's the Reed we need. He doesn't need me. He doesn't need me. He doesn't need anybody else. He's that talented.
It's an honor to be able to play him. You know, to play Deadpool for the first time animated is fantastic. When he was described to me, you know, it seemed to fit right in with my own personality. You know, aside from the murder, which has only happened 2-3 times, and you can't prove it.
This is the fun stuff.
What? Babies creep me out. Rock-a-bye, baby.
You're definitely taking it to a new level, kid. I like that. Rock-a-bye, bang.
We knew he was the guy to come in and play Deadpool because he was going to bring stuff out from that moment that we weren't going to create on our own. And he proved it. I mean, he had us in hysterics. I don't think I've laughed that hard in a session since my last Nolan session in X-Men. He's hysterical, and he's fantastic. And, you know, he's someone that people will speak of a long time because of the performance he gave. But I feel that way about Fred. I feel that way about Kari. You know, Steve is the only Wolverine in my mind. There is no other option for him. If you don't have Steve, you don't have Wolverine, in my opinion. All the people that we brought in will be thought of as these characters for, I think, the majority of the fans out there. Once you see them and hear them, I think those are the voices people are going to now have in their head, because they just did such a wonderful job owning these characters.
The Marvel guys put more passion and more excitement into this thing than I have ever seen on any show I've ever worked on. And to see how Craig would get up in these sessions and cuss and sweat and the veins are coming out of his neck, I've never seen anybody put that kind of thing into any kind of show of any, you know, in anything I've done. And I've been doing this for 25 years. And that, for me, really inspires me to do the best I possibly can do. If I don't, I feel like I'm going to let him down.
That's our guy. That's it. Yeah.
All right, here. This one's for Craig.
I owe a lot to Craig. He really is a motivator, and he's a great writer, and just can really bring out the best performance in all of us.
We could also try, like, bang. Just kidding.
Bang.
I owe a lot to him. I think all of us do.
Nolan, you're the worst. I love that guy.
I'm alive!
We can bring comic books to life, but we can do them in such a way that even the live action movies can't really do it. You know, we can have, you know, the Hulk fighting 5 superpowered beings. If we can think of it, we can do it. And, you know, even like a full-on Hulk Wolverine fight, I don't know if you're ever going to see that in the movies. This is the place.
Working on projects like this, it's you have to be a fan. You have to love this stuff. And You know, that's who we're catering to. We're the toughest fans in the world. You know, they all have their own ideas of what it sounds and feels and tastes like. And you'll never please them all 100%, but we always strive to do our best to get to everybody's, you know, happy place when we do these projects. So really, this is the one that I think speaks to why we got into this business in the first place. For me, this is why I got in the business. You know, these two films are why I fell in love with comics, why I love cartoons, you know? And I've always wanted to make that project.
We had literally explored other properties, even to the point of having false starts and doing certain characters and ideas. We know we wanted to do 2 of them. We got the go-ahead that we're going to be playing with Hulk versus Thor, Hulk versus Wolverine, which is very exciting.
Hulk versus, which is like probably the truest comic book thing I've ever worked on. It's really like right out of the pages of a book. As somebody who reads the comics and always has, I'm excited for this.
You know, it's a fanboy dream come true for me. And so, you know, we just went for it.
Outside of the world you know, there exists a realm eternal, Asgard, the shining light of the 9 worlds. Asgard is home to the gods, all of whom bow down before the All-Father, Odin.
The actors in these films, and I've worked with wonderful talent across the board, and obviously I can't get everybody into these 2 movies, but you're working with the people that I love the most.
And he keeps the Asgardian realm safe. But once, each winter, the All-Father must rest. As a kid growing up with those comics, the Marvel comics, I've still got some. From the late 60s through into the early 70s, I've got Marvel comics that I collected as a child. And, you know, those characters, Loki, I can still see him, you know, the picture of Loki. And the idea of actually being able to play him now, it's a dream come true. And this is when the wicked descend upon his kingdom.
I am a fan too. So I'm basically one of them. So doing this is a real trip for me because I've been such a Hulk. I love the Hulk so much, and for doing this is such an honor, and it is that way because you really are seeing all of these elements coming together, and not only coming together, but the detail and the amount of characters and just what's going on is so specific to the comic books and to the soul of the story.
That's it, I'm ready for work. The first thing I really did was looked at a lot of images of Thor, and there are a lot of different ones. And I mean, in some instances, he's painted very big and strong and mighty. And I just sort of tried to hone in on what was closest to me, physically, of those images, and not try to be something that I am not physically, because otherwise your voice changes, I think, if you try and do that.
How many of our brothers and sisters have fallen to this madness? Must we be chained to this eternal struggle?
Be careful what you wish for, my love. For when the cycle does break, when things do change, then comes the end of days. Then comes Ragnarok.
I fought all my life to keep the Hulk inside. You don't know the destruction he can cause.
Don't know? You fool. I'm counting on it. With somebody like Loki, I think there's an element of arrogance and pomposity that informs the tone that he has vocally. He loves the sound of his own voice, and he thinks he's tremendously clever. So he savors things, and I wanted to bring that to the vocal performance. Look at you, so weak. Were it not for you, In terms of the strict accent, I suppose it's more pitched at what British people would call received pronunciation. It's almost theatrical. It's almost the kind of thing that you would hear on stage with the Royal Shakespeare Company. That sort of slightly heightened tone.
Fred, can you give us one that starts, I guess, with voice right at the head and just gets bigger?
What I love about it is I really get to learn Hulk really well. Like I really, you do your research on it, you play the part, you really have to you get involved in it really heavily. So it's, for me, that's been a real ride.
You can just tell he's got a heavy heart right now, so you're just very worried about him. And again, it's, you're not sobby, and it's a really nice softness you're bringing to it. It's just, you just really want to feel, as soon as you see him, you can just see that he's troubled, and you want to know why this is the case.
Okay.
Okay?
Your Lady Sif would know what vexes thee.
All the people that we brought in will be thought of as these characters for, I think, the majority of the fans out there. Once you see them and hear them, I think those are the voices people are going to now have in their head, because they just did such a wonderful job owning these characters.
We must learn to savor the moments of peace.
Again, volume and intensity is right.
Okay.
That kind of
you're not getting hit in the belly.
Craig said like a force of nature in the studio. You can never be tired. You can't help but get caught up in it. He lives the entire story, and he plays the whole thing out in front of you.
So, Fred, it's like you're pushing your face through like bars, and you're trying to get the Loki, and then it finally affects you, and you're off screen as you fall.
Like that.
You're off. So do that. That's why there's no chairs in there.
Don't fall down.
See? That's why I'm no actor.
Did you see me hold on to
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I was hoping Chris would catch me. This told me a lot about our relationship. Right on my butt.
I just watched.
And don't look for his name in the credits. Working on projects like this, it's you have to be a fan. You have to love this stuff, and that's who we're catering to. There was a spine of the storyline that I had originally broke, and then Frank and Sam and I had sat down and talked about some elements, and this was before Chris came into the process.
We kind of started just doing story sketches, trying to pull iconic images from the comics, and then kind of piecing these images together to create the story that we have.
Frank, he always has the most spectacular visuals and ways that he wants to approach this stuff. He also is a huge Kirby fan, and he loves the relationships that were established there. And he did a lot of work bringing in the Enchantress element and the spurned love of Thor, and also the afterlife sequence with Banner, and just really trying to make sure that there was emotion in every scene that we had, which I thought was great. It wasn't even so much Hulk versus Thor as it was Hulk versus Asgard. We knew to get it to where it needed to be, Chris had to come in again and help us out with that one. So we sat down and kind of went through the story with him, and Frank showed him tons of visuals and designs, and Chris delivered, to me, I think the strongest script we've seen to date.
I think when we approached like Hulk versus, we wanted to go more towards like a comic book feel, and what we know as comic books lately is a more adult thing. It's really like the tour of Asgard. I mean, if you don't know Thor, by the end of this, you're gonna know. You're gonna know like where he lives, who he hangs out with, what he does. It's a Thor fan's dream.
Chris brought a lot of the other characters, and once he stepped into the process, Frank had an idea of how many guys like Ulik and all the different creatures and frost giants and things we should see. And so the idea was really to give a sense of the size and scale of Asgard and how incredible it is to have this one mortal being just tear it apart, and nothing can stop him.
With Thor, obviously, these characters are cut from granite, and they're living statues, they're gods, and they're just very colorful. And with Asgard, you have to try to make that place believable. So, from the type of architecture to the soldiers to the sheer history and scope, the scale of the place. Arnold Freiberg is my favorite illustrator, and not just the shapes, but with Freiberg, you know, he's a world-renowned illustrator. His use of color was, to me, has always been so perfect, so vibrant. You know, that he brings these characters to these mythic type proportions. So we kind of used him as a general guide, but hopefully if we're successful, fans will see elements from all of these different characters. I mean, you're going to see a lot of elements from Walt Simonson, obviously. And if you look, you're going to see a lot of posing from John Buscema and things of that nature. So we're very deliberate in a lot of things that we did. From the very moment we start the show, we pull you into that world, and then we unleash the Hulk onto it.
That's great.
Go to Q70 here?
That's great.
You know, I think the benefit of this movie is we can bring comic books to life, but we can do them in such a way that even the live-action movies can't really do. You know, we can have, you know, the Hulk fighting 5 superpowered beings. You know, we can have the Hulk fighting gods and, like, you know, the most incredible things. If we can think of it, we can do it.
Hulk smash.
The Hulk's catchphrase is Hulk smash, and in both of these films, he does a fair amount of damage. Wolverine and Thor kind of really take a beating. This is, you know, the Hulk unleashed in both cases, and he doesn't pull his punches here.
Rise, cursed hammer!
Loki, enough! Your own rage fuels me. I can feel the spell breaking.
So shorten it up a little bit, but that's the right idea.
The most difficult thing, though, is just, you know, stupid stuff like grunts, impacts, you know, sighs. So, for me, it's so much more easier to do dialogue.
And give us a little tumble.
It's my least favorite part of it because I think it's actually kind of the most ephemeral. You can't quite get your hands on it. You know, one person's grunt is another person's sigh, and you know, all that kind. Whereas the dialogue, you can really play it. Whereas you can't. What can you do with, you know, you're hitting a wall. You hit a wall, but you think it sounds easy, but you go over it and get it just right.
So the sound of the initial grab, the constriction around my neck. Okay.
Sounded a little Japanese. So you want just the slam of against the wall? Okay.
So I do the stuff for real. That's the thing.
We might have got the pain that time, though. That was pretty cool.
The starting bar.
Yes, it is. Hold on a minute. It is.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, yes, it is. I mean, it is. It's a physical job. You know, the voice and breath support you need to have for this character. And then on top of it, you are kind of basically having a fight every day. So road rage is all out of me now. I have nothing left. I'm spent.
The Family Guy lost him. All the stories we'll never see, never hear. Oh, Fred. Well, I couldn't be your first, but I'm glad to be your last, my friend.
I honored. When it all comes together and it works, and then I do the precautions I need to do, you know what I mean? I'll, you know, drinking the right tea and warming myself up and warming down, even more importantly. Always good. Little spray, coat that throat, you know, they're all aware of, you know, when they record, they're trying to be careful too. So, but it's, yeah, it is definitely a labor. It's a labor of green love.
It's a little frothing now. It's got, oh yeah. I do.
Hulk drink.
I appreciate you ordered green, dude. It's very good. Of course. I appreciate that.
I'm a company man. Here you go.
For every kid that was ever bullied at school, it's a complete fantasy come true. You're the weedier brother, you're the one that's always, you know, gets second best, and suddenly you're the most powerful thing on earth. And, you know, and to inhabit that when you're doing it, the joy of suddenly, you know, those days when you were at school and some kid, you dread seeing him on the way to school, but no, today, you're the Hulk. You can just go up to that kid and knock him into the next street. I mean, it's intoxicating. I have waited an eternity for this. Crush you with my bare hands. To match your might. To feel your life fade away as my hands wrap around your throat.
Mom always liked you better.
I take a lot of punches, so, you know, I'm good with those. So a little bit more...
little more impact.
And it's closed mouth too, so just clench teeth when you hit.
It felt so daunting, living up to this great mythological character and doing Thor justice with such a huge fan base who you don't want to offend in any way, who you want to please and hope that you approximate their vision of Thor.
You want to shatter his knee with that hammer. So this is to cripple him. So that's what you want for that last shot there. So it's a duck and then a blow to cripple the guy.
That was great.
Perfect.
Jesus.
You know, with the two films, you know, there's always a chance that they could be, well, there's Hulk in this one and Hulk in that one, and, you know, the players change, but it's all the same. But Frank and Madhouse did an amazing job of making them look and feel like almost completely different.
One is very epic, almost like a David Lean type of a movie, and the other is more like David Fincher. You know, I mean, they're just completely opposites.
Thor has more turns in it, you know, more changes from one moment to the next than we have done in any of our previous films. I just don't think you know what's going to come next. Frank and Sam and Chris and just everybody did a beautiful job, just, you know, packing as much storytelling as we could in that short amount of time. Thor is a film that I don't think any of us could have ever imagined being as good as it is. And again, it's not bragging, I'm just really proud of it, and I think everybody involved should be, because it's a real success, and I wish they could all be that good. X-Men Evolution was wonderful, beautifully animated, beautifully directed, incredible designs. You know, Boyd Kirkland, Steve Gordon, and then Greg Johnson was a brilliant storyteller that oversaw seasons 2, 3, and 4. This is the best of what we had in Evolution, finally with no handcuffs. We felt like we could take a lot of the strengths that were in those stories, which was, let's do the comics, let's treat the characters with respect, let's not be afraid of action, let's bring the drama and the excellent storytelling that comics do, and bring it to an audience that would appeal to 7 to 70.
Are you insane?
Probably.
Greg and I worked together to kind of hammer out that concept and to work on those episodes and to really create a 26-episode saga. In this series, yes, it was about bringing great storylines from comics to life, but we had to find a way to not be compared to the 90s series exactly.
I think the jumping off point became when someone said, let's put Wolverine in charge.
We changed things up by putting the guy on the side that's just there to stab things and make him the leader. And take the leader and rip away his girlfriend and rip away his father, and now see what happens when he's got neither thing that keeps him fighting. And what we got was a Scott that feels a lot more like Logan, and a Logan who doesn't know what he's doing, but knows that this all hangs on his shoulders, and it creates for a lot of conflict. The fans have let us know that that is not right. Wolverine's no leader. How could this happen? And I assure you that we know he's no leader. That's why we did it, and everyone's asking that question, including Wolverine.
Resume program.
People worry because they think we're dissing Cyclops, and what we wanted to do was, let's give this guy a reason to fight. Let's give him a reason to get out there, to face his vulnerabilities and not protect him anymore with the people he loves and cares for. Let's rip away all of those things and see what he does next. And what you see is that he's a leader for a good reason, although it takes him a long time to get there.
Charles.
The other thing is what to do with Charles Xavier. I mean, he's the fatherhead. We didn't want to kill him. We couldn't think of a good reason for him to voluntarily leave. And so really it became, well, let's create a mystery around it. Have him disappear. That would give Wolverine the opportunity to step in.
So, what's next?
We bring back the X-Men.
I think the new exciting addition is Emma Frost coming into the cast.
What could you possibly offer the X-Men besides trouble?
I can find Professor Xavier for you.
Emma Frost is messed up. She's vicious, she was a villain, she's dark, she's twisted, she's cold-blooded. Emma Frost is way more exciting, and I'll go on record, I am going on record. She's way more exciting than Jean Grey, and I love Jean Grey. Jean is hope and prosperity, she's sweetness. You need someone who doesn't buy into that next to the guy who lost everything, to help him step up and do what needs to be done, the one who can be tough and hard when he needs it.
You'd like to ask me about Jean, so do it.
AJ, our designer, did a beautiful job of, again, giving us a style that would look great standing still, but also would be fluid when it was animated.
I think AJ really found a very unique vision for these characters. I mean, they're familiar enough and rooted in certain periods of time in the books. One of my favorite designs is actually Nightcrawler. I just love his design. And even his teleportation effects are stunning.
Why don't you just phase through it?
And fall on my face? No thanks. Now come on and help me out.
You're an X-Men. Do it yourself.
It isn't just about what the X-Men are up against and the trouble that they're having within and the threats that are returning. You also have a mysterious leader in Wolverine who's got his own past and his own batch of problems. And while he's focusing on the X-Men, his own past is coming back to haunt him. And an episode like Wolverine versus Hulk speaks to that. And Wolverine's first appearance is 181. You know, that's the one that brought us this great character. And it felt wrong for us to have this opportunity to not utilize that story.
Fun. Right.
There's a different twist to it of how Wolverine gets into this story and some of the other details, but it absolutely is a remake of that classic.
We actually flash back in the series to a brief scene of that Wolverine, the same uniform, taken right out of the books.
At the end of the day, you've got a team that is really messed up, that isn't prepared to go fight a battle because they're too busy fighting each other. And that's a series that's unlike Evolution and the first series, but it still speaks to the characters that people know in the books, and it gives us the stories that the people love, but because the players have now changed, the outcomes also shift around. So it keeps it fresh while still being familiar.
We rise to the occasion because we're a team, and we got a job to do. The world needs the X-Men.
Kirby redefined Asgard and the world of the gods in a way that separates it from anything else that's come its way. There was a side of science fiction and technology and surrounding space and nebulas, and it took the gods, who are already extraordinary kinds of characters from mythology, and put them even to a more extraordinary place.
Jack Kirby is one of my favorites because Jack Kirby, the thing that he brings is pure power to everything that he drew. I mean, I'd see many people draw Captain America, and to me, only Jack Kirby's Captain America was Captain America. Only his Thor was Thor. And it's because with Thor, he brought a nobility. It was interesting because you feel a little bit of an English nobility mixed in with the Norse thing in his. But, you know, he carried everyone a certain way. They seemed to be carrying a certain importance that was off stage. It was between the panels. You know, they're walking somewhere with such authority, they must be doing something important. And when people came in on horseback, you know, and people were being overwhelmed, everything looked like it was a very important thing that they're doing, yet you never knew what they were doing. People were always moving past Thor and going over here and coming over. But all of them, all Asgardians, were carrying a certain kind of weight and nobility to them.
When we look at those materials for this film and even the live action, we're trying to find that translation today of how do we bring this stuff to life, because this beautiful blend of technology and sorcery and celestial qualities and how it affects Earth and the realms are connected. I mean, it was just beautifully done. And then pairing him with a frail mortal and making him a man stuck between worlds and responsibilities. Just visually and storytelling wise, it's shocking that they could up the storylines to this degree with a whole new character. I mean, they've done it so many times before with everything they ever touched.
Anytime we're dealing with Marvel, you have to have Jack Kirby as a base. You know, most of the horses that we have in America come from an Arabian base, and then, you know, the quarter horse and whatever all break from that. I think when you're dealing with Marvel, you have a Jack Kirby base, and you build your characters off of that.
We did experiment with a number of styles for Hulk Thor. You know, I had a very talented person, a friend of mine, Steve Gordon, that came in, and he worked out a lot of different issues pertaining to the Kirby, you know, Jack Kirby look, and the John Buscema and the Walt Simonson and such. So having looked at all these things, you know, we were able to kind of glean what kind of worked for us and what didn't work for us in an animated form. And then I kind of took it over at that point, and I kind of threw in some of my own things to get that God-type feeling. These characters are carved from granite, and I wanted a very blockish, almost stoic nature to it. I mean, we wanted it to feel like Kirby without it actually being Kirby.
This is about the 9 realms and how we're all interconnected. And we tried to bring that together here as much as we could. And it's a real challenge to try to bring that to life. And I think, you know, even going back to Simonson really continued that tradition. He brought all of that wonder back into it, and I think in a lot of his work you can really see the nod to the classics and see how much it affected him as an artist. So it was a daunting task to try to stay true to the beautiful Kirby look and feel and laws and physics and just everything that he created for the world.
And I think the thing, when you look at Jack Kirby's artwork, you know, he was such a reader of mythology and stuff, but then you feel like he took all that stuff and didn't reference it, but threw it on a shelf and allowed that, you know, thing he does come out. And it just, the otherworldliness of his buildings, they look like something gods would live in. And it's always fun when you look at any of Jack Kirby stuff, because I think the thing is, you sit down, you're trying to logically things. He's not worried about that. He's worried about the feel and the emotion of each panel, and I think that's what people responded to his artwork was, you know, it's just crackling with power and emotion all the time.
With the Thor theatrical on its way, you know, we wanted to find a way to reach out to the fans-to-be. Without a doubt, this is my favorite of the long-form films. The fans that have been with us for the 600 issues that exist, they're expecting the hero that had been in the books, you know, that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby did a beautiful job creating, or expanding upon from the mythology, the stories that Walt Simonson did so beautifully that, you know, were a part of my youth. What we needed to do was find a way to catch people up, give them a sense of who these characters were before they became the greats that they now are in Marvel's history.
Loki is so established as the villain to Thor. He's very complex, and a complex character, I think, demands to have something in his past that has turned him that way.
There was a series done over the past few years, Son of Asgard, that touched on that idea. Who were Loki and Thor before they became, you know, the hammer-wielding hero and the god of evil?
We didn't want to make Mjolnir be the MacGuffin or the thing to get at this point. Thor, we felt, even before he got his hammer, had to learn some things about being the nobility that he is. He starts out kind of the spoiled prince.
Why do you have so little faith in me, Sif?
I am the only one who has faith in you. Everyone else treats you like a spoiled child.
That is enough!
He's on the verge of adulthood. His father, Odin, is the most powerful being in the 9 realms, and he knows what's out there, and he's kept his kids close.
Greetings, Thor. Perhaps you'd like to join us on our next quest, Thor.
You know he can't, Hogan. He's not allowed to leave the kingdom.
Odin's need to protect them has in a way crippled them, and their destinies will be had whether he likes it or not.
As for you, there will be no leaving Asgard. I am your king and your father, and you will obey me.
What we have an opportunity to do is explore what it would be like to go out and see this world firsthand with Thor, who's seeing it for the first time.
For those who know them, they're watching these characters who love each other dearly, knowing that they're destined to become the worst of enemies.
Fear not, little brother, for I am a skilled hand with a blade. I'll protect you.
Hello, friends.
The Warriors 3 are just fantastic. Once we found how they fit, they were a pleasure to put in every scene.
I thought that it would be Volstagg that would be the guy that would get the main humor, because in a comic he's always sitting on someone and he does those kind of things, but it ends up being Fandral that steals the show.
Can you fight?
Yes, if we must.
He was my favorite character to write, Fandral, just because he could say anything.
Say, love, do you know where a gallant warrior like myself might purchase the claw or fang of a savage white bear?
Yeah.
You took my ale.
It's not like we haven't seen a bar fight before, but we've never seen one in Asgard, right?
There's lots of action, lots of violence, but the thing is, there's no real bad guy. The real villain in this is the Sword of Surtur. Whoever handles it is the destruction of everything.
Stop the intruders!
Run!
Thor is going to get exactly what he wanted, an adventure of a lifetime.
Loki!
It's going to not only cost him deeply, but it's going to throw 2 kingdoms into war.
Prepare my army. We march on Asgard this day.
It's always tough when you're doing the early years of characters that are loved in their adult lives. But I think for the people who do, I think they'll see everything they love about these characters in the moments that we have in front of them.
Here, try this. Well, it's better than nothing.
I oversee, I write X-Force with Chris Yost, but more importantly, I oversee the creative on the animation front, and I'm supervising producer of Hulk versus Wolverine. If you're a fan of Wolverine and his past, we've buried chunks of that in this movie, and I'll say no more because you should see it for yourselves. So here it is, the world premiere of Hulk versus Wolverine.
My name is Wolverine. I'm the best there is at what I do. But what I do isn't very nice. What the?
Supporting us. Let me introduce you to some people that are completely out of the order I had planned. Frank Parr, our producer and supervising director. Next is Fred Tatasciore, the Hulk, ladies and gentlemen. And Chris Yost, writer on the film. Wolverine is stuck in traffic. Apparently the big rig that stopped half the fans from getting here today unfortunately took out our hero. So Fred will be doing duties for both today.
I'll be fighting myself tonight, actually.
That's right. All right, well, let's see what the fans have to ask, and we'll go through a few questions. This allows us to take characters like Deadpool and do a full 33-minute or a 70-minute or whatever with them. So we're allowed to kind of sneak in between the people who say no. On Saturday morning, at the end of the day, they got broadcast standards, we got networks, we got kids, and all this stuff that say we can't do this stuff. And we don't want that, okay? We want to do the comics and do them in a way that brings them to life, that honors the stuff those great creators have done. So this allows us to get away with a lot and try to stick as close to the books as we can. We tried to stick as much of that whole kind of world into this film secretly, so again, we could have that special sneak peek for you guys. We're at a point now where you guys really have to speak up. You guys have to tell us what you want. I think today we got to see that you guys really enjoyed this film. We're going to see tomorrow how you guys feel about including some of the kids that this probably wouldn't be right for in the mix. But you guys dictate what we do next, and I think there's room for both. I think there's rooms for Goonies-like projects that are fun, like Power Packs or New Mutants or, you know, those kinds of young, fun Marvel hero characters. And then there's stuff where we need 5 amputations to make it right.
When I approach a design, in terms of art direction, I look at the story and I try to find something that fits within that art, within that story, that helps tell the story as opposed to having one design that fits everything. I think throughout the history of Marvel, there's been so many different kinds of arts and so many kinds of designs in the comic books that we've always tried to emulate that. And I try to put that within the designs. So Spider-Man works great for what it is. To make it more darker, I'm not sure if it would work as well with that design. If it were used on Wolverine, I don't think it'd work that well. It has to fit the story in order to make it more convincing, so we like to play around a lot with them.
We were very fortunate on this project. We had Madhouse involved, and they're a tremendous Japanese animation studio, and they did a beautiful job for us. But the story and the tremendous voice acting that these guys do doesn't work if the animation isn't there for you. So we just try to find the best look that's going to fit all things considered. We look at all of these as the beginning of a franchise. So again, if they do well, the opportunity is absolutely there. I think Versus should be an ongoing series of films, and I don't mean Hulk Versus, I mean just Versus. We should be trying to get, who do we want to see fight? You know, I'd like to see the X-Men and the Avengers get it on. So, you know, thankfully we're not letting go of Frank Parr until we absolutely have to. So as long as we keep the same creative people involved, and that's why we go back to people like Fred time and time again, for Beast, for Hulk, for Fin Fan Foom, for any of these guys. Chris Yost, he's on the fence, he could be gone at any time, don't get attached. It's about finding the people that make this stuff great for you guys. So anything's possible. All we have planned at this stage are those first 8 movies. We're thinking about the next ones right now.
The main thing is, you know, just knowing who the character is, and that's the basic acting things of who are you, what do you want, where are you, but really it's looking at the designs, seeing the physicality. Obviously, you know, sometimes we're really looking at the drawings and storyboards ahead of time, so you're really getting the action. You want to mark that out, too. Kind of what is he doing? What's the intensity? You got great direction, too, that tells us, okay, how far is this going to go? What exactly are you doing? And a lot of times you have to just imagine it for yourself. You imagine the world you're in, and then when we do it later, when I see what's going on, it's just, I will act out what is going on, you know, and it's like whatever I see. Yes, you! Nice man, won't smash you. No, but no, and it's just it's really it's a lot of fun, but it is a definite workout.
Yeah, they're exhausting days. If you can imagine, Fred runs that hot for 4 hours, so it's pretty grueling days, and we put him through the paces.
It's fun though.
And Fred, people may not know the range of characters you've played for us, and then just out there, you've been Jarvis, you've been Finn.
Yes. I've had to be a few different things, actually. Jarvis and...
in the Wolverine the X-Men series, you play Beast?
Yes, Beast, which is a lot of fun, because he's almost the opposite of Hulk in many ways. You know, he's rationalizing with, like, the peaceful outcome, and he's the kind of superhero you'd want to be, you know, if you could opt to do so.
The great thing about this project was that literally the only thing was Hulk had to be in it and Wolverine had to be in it. And you know, we thought about, you know, they just hung out and had fun and had a tea party, but we decided to go with a big action movie. You know, anyone that knows like Craig and I's comic work, you know, we know what we do. You know, we like the big action, and we really had a chance to delve into the two characters, like Wolverine's like entire past and Rogue's gallery, and really just like try to bring a comic book to life. Like everything that fans like about the comic books, like the action and the edge, we tried to put it in there. Hopefully you'll see a lot of things like directly from the comic books in there. Hopefully you'll like it.
Thank you so much for coming out. Thanks so much, guys.
I don't suppose you got any interest in talking this out.